Okay, let's dive into this material you've shared. We're looking at tackling alcohol urge and binge drinking interventions, specifically from 2014 to 2025.
That's right. And binge drinking, getting to those high blood alcohol levels fast.
Yeah.
It's a huge challenge.
And the sources really seem to link it to this issue of impaired inhibitory control, basically the ability to just stop.
Exactly. And underlying that often is this intense desire, the urge, craving. It's central to alcohol use disorder and a big hurdle for recovery.
Yeah, and it's not simple, is it? Not just chasing pleasure. Your sources say it's triggered by cues, stress.
Internal states, feeling down.
Right.
It activates pretty broad brain networks.
Yeah.
Way beyond just the classic reward pathways.
One source even described cravings like ocean waves, intense, overwhelming sometimes, but they do pass.
Good analogy. So our mission here for this deep dive is really to unpack what your specific sources from this last decade tell us about ways researchers are trying to lessen that urge.
Right, looking at both herbal and pharmacological approaches targeting the brain.
So maybe we should quickly touch on the brain's angle, the neurobiology, simplified, of course.
Good idea. The sources mention these stages addiction.
Yeah, the cycle. You've got the binge intoxication phase, driven by reward. Then withdrawal negative effect. That's where stress, discomfort really kick in.
And then the preoccupation anticipation stage. That's where the urges get really strong, partly because that inhibitory control you mentioned is weaker.
Precisely. And different brain areas and chemicals are key at different points. Reward areas, stress centers like the amygdala, control regions like the prefrontal cortex.
And the neurotransmitters involved change, too. Dopamine, GABA, glutamate, stress hormones.
Exactly. They all play shifting roles. So the urge itself, kind of evolves depending on where someone is in that cycle.
Okay, so with that complex picture in mind, what about the natural interventions mentioned in your sources from 2014 onwards?
Well, kudzu gets mentioned quite a bit. Traditional herb, but with some recent science backing.
Right, I saw that 2019 meta-analysis. It suggests kudzu may reduce cravings and maybe consumption, though the evidence was called moderate.
Yeah, moderate. But then there was also a 2015 human trial looking specifically at binge drinking. Found a single dose actually reduced how much people drank in a binge setting.
A single dose. That's pretty interesting, but they don't fully know how it works.
Not completely.
Yeah.
Maybe something to do with alcohol metabolism or like brain blood flow neurotransmitters still being figured out. Seems pretty well tolerated, though.
But maybe some caution needed. Hormone issues.
Right, because of the isoflavones, yeah. Then you have others like ashwagandha, passionflower. The sources mostly frame them as stress and anxiety reducers.
Ah, so acting more indirectly on the urge, if negative feelings are the trigger.
Potentially, yes. Ashwagandha working on the stress axis. Passionflower maybe boosting GABA, that calming signal. But the sources are clear. We need more trials looking directly at AUD, at drinking outcomes.
Got it. And psilocybin, that's in there too.
Mentioned, yes. A recent phase 2 trial showed, let's say, a signal for reducing craving compared to placebo, even though other main goals weren't met at that early point.
Different mechanism entirely, though, right? Serotonin system. And needs therapy alongside it.
Absolutely. It's a whole different approach. Requires that psychotherapeutic support.
Okay, let's switch gears to the pharmacological side. Your sources cover the established meds first, like oral naltrexone.
Yep, the opioid blocker. Reduces the rewarding feeling. Helps with craving. Recent reviews still support it for cutting down drinking.
And acamprosate. Working more on the withdrawal side, modulating glutamate.
Exactly. Helping with that negative affect, the craving driven by discomfort, also supported for reducing drinking days. And topiramate is used too, off-label, with some decent evidence.
But here's where things get really, really interesting based on your sources. This shift towards targeting stress and negative feelings more directly.
That's a key takeaway. Researchers are really honing in on that. For example, kappa opioid receptor antagonists, KOP antagonists.
KOP, that's part of the system that makes you feel bad during withdrawal, the dark side.
You got it. And a 2024 preclinical study in rats showed a KOP antagonist reduced drinking specifically during withdrawal, so targeting that distress-driven relapse.
Wow, that's a big shift from just blocking pleasure. And nociceptin receptor modulators, NOP, similar idea.
Similar pathway, yeah.
Yeah.
Another system involved in stress, anxiety, pain. Preclinical work, like with PPL-138 mentioned in 2023 news, looks promising for anxiety-driven drinking.
And one more caught my eye, PDE4 inhibitors, like a Premils.
Right, phosphodiesterase 4 inhibitors, results expected around 2025. This seems to target neuroinflammation, maybe affecting circuits in the amygdala involving GABA.
And that's a repurposed drug, isn't it? Used for other things already.
It is, yeah, which sometimes helps speed things along if it proves effective.
So, trying to connect the dots here from the sources, herbs are often multi-target, maybe less direct human AUD urge data overall, though Kudzu has that specific binge drinking finding.
Whereas pharma has established options, plus this really exciting new wave targeting stress and negative affect, although much of that is still preclinical.
But there's overlap, right? Both approaches seem to be converging on things like GABA-glutamate balance.
And crucially, on tackling those negative emotional states that really drive the urge for many people.
Still, the sources point out gaps. We definitely need more solid human trials for herbs on urge and binge outcomes specifically.
And translating those novel pharma targets from animal studies into humans. That's always the challenge.
Plus, more research focused just on binge drinking's unique neurobiology, like that impaired control issue, and understanding different types of craving. Is it reward, relief, habit?
Which all points towards, well, personalization, doesn't it? The idea that the best treatment might depend on why someone is craving, what's driving their urge.
So, summarizing the outlook based on these 2014, 2025 sources, it feels cautiously optimistic.
I'd agree. Promising leads in both areas. Kudzu, the psilocybin signal, the anxiety-focused herbs, and then established meds, plus these novel stress targets in pharma.
Seems the focus is really growing on understanding the why behind the urge, not just the urge itself.
Exactly. The ultimate aim being, finding better, maybe more tailored ways to lessen that powerful pull that fuels binge drinking.
So maybe a final thought to leave you with. If craving can come from different places, seeking pleasure, escaping discomfort, or just ingrained habit, what if figuring out your main driver is the key to finding the most effective way to manage your urge?